Today we are going to be reading a story titled The Crayon Man, the true story of the invention of Crayola crayons. As we are reading, we are going to focus on vivid verbs. What do you think a vivid verb is? Can you share an example with a friend? I want you to turn and talk and discuss what you think a vivid verb is and share an example. Okay, before we start, vivid verbs help bring a story to life by creating strong and clear pictures in the reader's mind. As I read, I want you to listen to the vivid verbs mentioned throughout the story. Once there was a man who saw color everywhere. He noticed the yellow-orange petals of the black-eyed Susans in his garden. He marveled at the rich scarlet-red tones of the cardinal's feathers. He admired the deep blue greens of the waves in the sea. Color made him really, really happy. But all day long at work, all he saw was black. Black dust, black tar, black smoke, black ink, black dye, black shoe polish. His name was Edwin Binney, and he was an inventor. He worked with his cousin, C. Harold Smith. Together, they were Binney and Smith. Harold was a great salesman. He loved to travel the world. Edwin was curious. He had a knack for listening and making what people needed. Edwin invented a new kind of inexpensive slate pencil that wrote very smoothly. It was gray. Children loved it. He invented a kind of chalk that wasn't dusty and didn't crumble. It was white. Teachers loved it. He invented a wax crayon that would write on the wood and paper packaging. It was really, really black. People loved it. What do you notice here about Edwin Binney? What is he doing? Are there any vivid verbs that describe his actions and characteristics? Turn and talk to your friend and list 2 words that describe what Binney is doing. So when everyone, including Edwin's wife, Alice, told him that children needed better, cheaper crayons, he listened. They said, "The crayons we have are big, dull, and clumsy. The lumps of colored clay only make fat, clunky lines. And the artist's crayons from Europe are far too expensive. They crumble and break easily. Some are even poisonous." Edwin thought about his company's inventions. When you drew a picture with their gray slate pencil, it rubbed off at the drop of a hat. When you draw a picture with their white chalk, it smudged everywhere. If you drew a picture with Edwin's new, really black crayon, it was, well, very, really black. None of these inventions was any good for drawing in color. So Edwin listened, and Edwin invented. In a small stone mill in Pennsylvania, in a top-secret lab, Edwin's team experimented. How could they make better, stronger crayons? Melted paraffin wax, perhaps. Now for the crayon colors. Grinding, grinding, grinding up. Rocks and minerals into fine powders. Mixing, mixing. Slate for gray, earth for yellow, red and brown, perhaps. Oh yes, and lapes for blue. Pounding, sifting, and heating the colored powders. Would they be bright enough? Edwin's team kept on trying. They kept on experimenting. They came home covered in color. They experimented some more and discovered a pinch of this pigment, a splash of that one, a little hotter, a little cooler. And voila, lots of different shades. Now there were greens, orange, violets, and pinks too. Edwin came home covered in color. In a large tub at the mill, Edwin's team measured out the ingredients: melted wax, clay to thicken, something for texture, colored powders, each in just the right amount every time to make a top-secret formula. Slowly, carefully, stirring my hand, they poured the special formula into thin, crayon-shaped molds, smaller than any other inventor's, just the right size for children's hands. The mixture cooled and hardened. Edwin watched and Edwin waited. Finally, one summer evening in June 1903, Edwin came home covered in color and announced that he'd invented a new kind of colored crayon. What should he call it? Alice had an idea. She said, "Let's mix the French word craie for a stick of chalk and the word ola for the word oleaginous, meaning oily like the oily texture of the crayon wax, to invent a new word." Binney and Smith shipped out the first Crayola crayon boxes: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, brown, and black. 8 colored crayons for only a nickel. Edwin waited. Would children like them? Children did. Now they could draw a tiny green caterpillar or the big blue sky. Their drawings wouldn't smudge and they wouldn't rub out. They were bright and could last a long, long time. Excitement over the new, colorful invention spread like wildfire. Admirers from far and wide flocked to marvel at Binney and Smith's inventions at St. Louis World's Fair. The company's dustless chalk even won a gold medal. Proudly, Edwin and Harold showed it off, especially on their new Crayola crayon box. Every day, Edwin brought colorful bouquets from his garden to inspire the Crayola team. They made crayons in even more different shades, and later asked children to help name some of them. As I read, I want you to pay close attention to the children. What vivid words describe what they are doing with the crayons? How do these words help us see their creativity and enjoyment? I want you to turn and talk to a friend and discuss the vivid words and how they help us see their creativity and the joyness that they have in coloring. At last, because of Edwin Binney, the man who saw color everywhere, who had a knack for listening and making what people needed, children all around the world could reach for just the right shade. The end.